we are having some crazy technical difficulties. Give us a moment. We're going to share with our respective pages, and then we'll go from there. Give us a second. This is take 12. We've never had this before. We've had a few glitches, but we've never had this before. So hang tight with us and just be ready to ask some good old questions because we have a dynamic woman on with us. So as soon as I can get the Facebook to populate and I can share, then we'll be on our way. One moment. Okay, here we go. Share. Sharing to my page. And then please ask us any questions. Okay, I'm just putting we are live in the sanctuary. And it's up. It's early for you, Halima. Halima is on in Vegas time. Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm an early riser.
Okay. All right. So now we're back. So I'm going to read. Jessica is going to count me in.
Okay, here we go in 3, 2.
Welcome to the sanctuary. You're listening to DC Radio 96.3 HD4 and DCRadio.gov. I'm Wendy Cherry, your host, and we're back in the sanctuary talking about one of my favorite topics. I have Spirit Halima in the sanctuary with me today, and I loved her bio. As soon as I saw it, I was like, yes. Her bio reads that she is a perception adjuster, a worshiped woman mentor, an intuitive glitch finder, which we're going to get into that. She supported thousands of women in reconnecting with their feminine power through female magnetism and heart centered sexuality. As an empowerment mentor, Spirit is beyond passionate about the organic unfolding of women's greatest potential, as are we here at the Goddess Awakening and Healing Sanctuary. She mentored clients around the globe in reclaiming their power and learning to receive as women. And that's big. Receiving, being allowing the receiving of good things is huge. So I definitely want to talk about that too. So welcome to the sanctuary.
Welcome, Wendy. Glad to be here.
Thank you for your patience this morning. So we're going to get right into it.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how did you come up with those titles? Because I love those titles. So let's go first with the perception adjuster. What does that mean?
Well, your self perception is the holy grail. And so many of us are walking around, both men and women, but specifically here women, with a distorted perception of who we are as women. So I'm here to adjust that perception, kind of like correct that perception to a more elevated, expansive perception of yourself as a woman. So I'm here to adjust that lack or limited perception that we have of ourselves individually and collectively.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, I love that. Now, what about the worshiped woman mentor? Who is a worshiped woman, and why does she need a mentor?
The worship woman is the goddess.
Okay.
She is the complete whole entity, the full expression of the source creator, however you want to call this energy that we call God or source or infinite. She is that full expression. We need a mentor because a lot of us have been raised in a culture through religion, through societal programming that the woman is half of something and she needs to be completed. Or there's a sense of loneliness just about being a woman. We don't have to go far to look in our world to see that programming. So I, as a mentor, support women again. It's the adjusting that perception and really expanding this idea of woman, because woman is a construct and it's incomplete, and we're here to stretch that and expand the idea of a woman to be as expansive and as beautiful as we can. So that's our responsibility.
Wow. So now the last one, well, I'm sure it's not really the last one. It's just what you put in the bio because you're so dynamic. But what about the intuitive glitch finder? That's my fave. Mm.
Yeah, the way my brain is wired, I definitely can pick up the glitches, and I call glitch dishonesty, the lies we tell ourselves, the lies we're telling other
Oh,
people. I can
wow.
hear the discord. It strikes in my body as, oh, that's not quite true. Oh, that's incomplete. I can look at a movie or hear a politician or see something that's not quite fluid. And so I can pick up a fake news story. I can pick up these glitches that, that distort the unfolding of truth. So I've always had it. I just now
Wow.
have acknowledged that this has been my gift. And when I was a child, teachers who didn't like me, I knew they didn't like me. I couldn't
Right.
really like pinpoint it, but I know I can sense it. And so it proved to be true over time. Yes. So that's
Okay,
what
so I want
yeah.
to like stay there for a little while because
Yes.
you have these amazing titles, and when you have titles, you kind of have to stand in them and live them. How
Yeah.
did you get to being the perception adjuster, the worship woman mentor, and the intuitive glitch finder? Because I'm sure you just didn't wake up one day and you were she.
No, not at all. I think I've been unfolding since I was a young girl. A lot of these
Okay.
gifts I have that we all have. We all have these quote unquote supernatural gifts that we have that have yet to be acknowledged, or we don't see them as divine gifts. So
Mm,
my unfolding of my gifts came through pain, which is true for so many of us,
yes.
through the darkness, through um, love and pain and suffering and trauma. I use those experiences to go deeper into myself, right? To allow these experiences to teach me, to guide me. And it was a space and time where I just stopped reacting to what was happening to me. Um,
Wow.
Again, it was through my marriage and divorce. It was through a painful relationship. It was through sexual trauma that I began to create this gap, create this space where I just stopped reacting to everyone and everything, if you will,
Hmm.
and,
Hmm.
and, and not reacting. This is where all this beautiful information is in this space, in this gap
Okay.
that you're not conscious of because you're just reacting, you're not even thinking. But when you slow yourself down, and that's what I
Hmm.
did throughout my, I would say, the past 15, 20 years. I've just been slowing myself down in these experiences, these painful, um, turbulence. I can share. I'm not being evasive here. I will share deeply about my experiences. One being my son's 4 year dark depression, and
Wow.
that was when it was a moment to moment, I wouldn't call it turbulent, it was a terrorizing
Of course.
experience. And there were days in which I didn't know my son was going to survive that day. Like,
Oh no.
there were moments to moments where I was just literally taken to the edge of my sanity and kicked off. Like someone just pushed me off.
Wow.
Um, and in those dark times, that was when I had to really face myself as a mother. We're going to talk about that, about the
Hmm.
divine mother, who
Yep.
I was being as a mother. Dealing with my son's anger and resentment towards me, some of the choices that I've made. Um, and I had to sit in that literally for a 4 year container, if you will, to
Wow.
really do some deep self correcting.
Now, did you have a mentor? Because that's pretty deep, and that's a lot. How did you know that that is what you needed to do?
Mm. Well, it just came to me. I didn't have a mentor during this process.
Okay.
I've yet to have a mentor so far as, like I am to other women.
Yeah.
This was just digging. It's like scratching and crawling out of the dirt, out of the grave, if you will. Just
My
you
God.
know, just allowing myself to. I would reach out to someone for help. They couldn't help. I would reach out for different things, and none of them would seem to be working. And so I had to one moment just, stop judging. It just
Hmm.
came to me. Just stop
Okay.
judging. So I was at that time judging, oh, you're not strong enough. Oh, you can't get over it. I was in that judgment, and in that judgment, I couldn't see clearly. And so I said, stop judging. And it was just something just came to me. I said, okay, I'm gonna stop judging. Just
Now,
listen.
who judging yourself or
My
others?
son, everyone,
Oh,
everyone. But
okay.
in this particular situation was my son.
Hmm.
Um, but judgment is at the core of the wound. It's the core of the wound. And it was when I stopped judging, because your children are just a part of you. So
Yeah.
if you're judging your child, you're judging yourself. Okay,
Wow.
I want us to be clear about that.
Hmm.
Um, and so I just stopped judging, stopped the judgment, and then thankfully I was able to have new insights, new perspectives, and I had new hits to call this person, look for different types of treatment, and it just blew me away. Just that one thing, which is a very I'm gonna say hard thing to do, but who's gonna like dig in their bags of non-judgment just to kind of to help their son or help their child or help their relationship? But
Right.
that is really a beautiful medicine to give yourself and to the people you love.
Wow. So, how long have you been doing this work? And, I know you have clients and you run classes and experiences. Like, how long did it take for you to heal your son and yourself and get you all to the point where now feel like you have the tools to mentor other women who might be experiencing that? Because I tell you, um, it's so needed. And there's so many of us who are sitting, paralyzed in fear. Hey, DeLacy, we are paralyzed in fear about the things that are happening around us. And,
Yeah.
maybe our children aren't doing the things that we want them to do, or maybe the
Mhm.
school is saying that they are doing things or behaving in certain ways. I'm a witness to that.
Yes.
And I used to side eye my little child because I'm like, pull it together. That mommy mouth,
Right.
pull it
Right.
together. You know what I'm saying? And so, how long did it take for you? And, I know that we're always evolving and the onion layers just keep peeling back. But
Yeah.
what did that process look like for you to now get into the space, to hold space for other women?
Okay, so let me rewind a little bit back. 1997, my father transitioned. He had pancreatic cancer,
Oh, okay.
and it was during this. My father, he came back. He was not well. He stayed with us and my mom. And I was searching high and low for the cure. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
I had Dr. Sabi come to my house.
Wow.
I was going here. I was going to do anything I could to keep my daddy here. Um, the last healer we found, Dr. Eve Caponelli, she's British. She's in Los Angeles. Um, After my father transitioned, I started having some health issues. I went to her and she gave me a book. And she said, you got to be careful about your mind. Like your
Right.
mind affects your body. And I was like, what do you mean?
Right.
At that time, I had no clue. So through this search, this curiosity, right, which is the feminine, this curiosity was leading me to study. And so I created my own radio show. It was
Okay.
called The Cosmic Womb. And
Okay.
that was going to be a gift to everyone who was like myself, who had a parent or who themselves had a dis-ease and wanted to have some hope, support. So I would interview many people who've healed themselves from all kinds of diseases.
Wow.
I interviewed Dick Gregory. I've interviewed Dr. Bruce Lipton. I've interviewed Dr. Jill Pookrum and Queen of Fu and so many different healers around the world. Um, and that started it was like part of the process. And from there,
Hmm.
um, I my marriage was just like, you know, like breaking up, falling out, being gutted, if you will, and I
Yeah.
was as well.
Yeah.
I got into sexual tantra, um, really going into the body, into the womb, right? And from there, I had all my girlfriends. I bought all my girlfriends jade eggs, and they were just shocked at my progress because I was like daily, daily, daily exercises and practices. Um, and so I would put my friends on, 90-day programs, 6-month programs. We would do short programs. We were just beasting. Like I mean, beasting. We were like in the trenches. every day doing breath work, yoni work,
Okay.
breath massage. We would do journaling. We would work out. We were eating, green foods, green smoothie. We were just mind, body, and soul, just delving into ourselves.
Okay.
And so a few years later, my friend was like, girl, you need to give this to someone else. You need to have a business. This should be your business. I'm like, I don't really know if it's going to be my business or not. She said, you've helped me so much. I was getting that feedback from my friends. So I started just doing, workshops and conferences. And it just unfolded from there. So far
That
as my
sounds amazing.
son's,
Yeah.
it was a crazy story. But with my son, I don't think I healed my son.
Okay.
Um, how I see it is that, from my experience, it's just my point of view, that depression is familial. It's a family issue.
Okay.
And most times we single out the person who's acting out, quote unquote.
Hmm.
Um, and usually the person who um, acts, quote unquote, acts out is the one who is the strongest, who can hold on to more pain than anybody else.
Wow. Okay.
And they've been holding on to that pain, they're holding the toxicity in. They're holding the unspoken truths. They're holding the trauma that no one has talked about. They're holding that energy in, and then it comes to a point where they just can't hold it anymore. But
Wow.
it's the family unspoken secrets and shames and grief that's yet to be expressed. And usually it's like an empath or someone who truly feel deeply, like my son.
Hmm.
He was taking it all in and began to just turn on himself in that sense. When I began to speak my truth and admit to him about me being raped,
Oh.
and my sexual trauma, and just being honest, I was so dishonest. I was
Hmm.
so dishonest, um, and even under the guise of trying to protect him, I was being dishonest, and that energy is very toxic. So I
Hmm.
had to clean all that up within myself, and I saw a different expression in my son. So it's really about me healing
Yeah. No, it
my
is.
son and my son.
It
But
is.
yes, he did have his own process as well. Yes.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to hear that he's better and that
Thank you.
yeah, I'm glad to hear that. So let's talk about the feminine. And so the
Hmm.
wounded feminine specifically.
Hmm.
So, we live in what is currently a patriarchal society. But I know that the time is coming. The season is coming to an end. And that's why they acting even crazier right now. Um, but the wounded feminine, in most cultures, most indigenous cultures, whether it's African or in North America or in other, Central South America, most of those cultures were matriarchal cultures,
Yeah.
and they did certain things a certain way. I mean, women, people forget, women are the ones who birth. We are the ones
Mm,
we are the ones who carry the babies, and we are the
yeah.
ones who, you know, do that. And I think that that's gotten lost in this society. And so it has caused an imbalance in the world. And so now we are seeing the effects of what has happened with patriarchy coming in for so long. And, it's not good. And so the earth and the world is self correcting, and so now I think we're going back. Now, I do believe that everything should be in balance. I don't think we need to go all the way to one side, feminine or masculine, because we too, when we're balanced, we have a masculine side and a feminine side. And we need both of those energies to make it in the world and to be the person that we're born to be. So, from your perspective, how did we become so wounded, and more, what can we do to shift that and to change it,
Hmm.
especially with 2020 coming?
Yes. Um, that's a very interesting question. A very good question, and it's a layered question. And
Hmm.
I would just say this: I see patriarchy as the result, as a result of the woman losing herself.
Yeah.
Right? Um, Patriarchy could not exist if, because think about it, ladies. If you're having giving birth to men, to boys that grow up to be, men, and these men oppress the very entity that gave them birth.
Mm-hmm.
That's not, something has to be, something went awry,
Right.
right? So we have to look at stuff and own our part. I'm not saying we own the whole thing, ladies, okay? But we have to own our part in this. So, looking at patriarchy through through that lens, as to see what happened, as what do we do as women. And I have this wonderful, it was a part of his speech that happened in Paris in 1964. Paul's, he was speaking to a group of men. I want to, if I can, read a little bit of this to share with you. Back in 1964, it's such a powerful, I'm gonna put my glasses on. It's such a powerful part. But I'll just kind of give you a good chunk of it so you can understand what he is saying. And I share this with all of my personal groups as well. He says, it's called La Femme est rare. The feminine is rare. The female is rare.
Okay.
Civilization would not exist as we know it today if the true woman still existed. I shall mention hundreds of thousands of real women called witches and burnt as such, as well as millions of other women vanquished and changed by fear.
Mm-hmm.
A revolutionary war was waged by knights against the real woman and in favor of a new idol, and a downward mutation of the species occurred, so that gradually the authentic female was replaced by a different kind of being. Gentlemen, he's talking to men now.
Mm-hmm.
The being whom we call woman is not the woman. She is a degeneration, a copy. The essence has gone. The principle is absent. Our joy and our salvation are no longer there.
Wow.
What we call women are beings who only look like women. We embrace imitations belonging to a species which has been entirely or almost entirely destroyed. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to skip down a little bit. The real woman from the beginning of time, the woman that was given to us, belongs body and soul to a universe alien to man's. She radiates at the other end of creation. She knows the secrets of water, stone, plants, and animals. She can stare at the sun and see in the dark. She possesses the keys to health, rest, and the harmonies of matter. And then he goes on to talk about this aspect of true woman, right?
Mm-hmm.
So there has been a multidimensional cause to what we're seeing, what we call as patriarchy.
Mm-hmm.
How we correct it is begin to look at the systems, the beliefs, the paradigms which supports, and how we have participated in patriarchy in any system that has devalued the woman. And we have to talk about religion.
Yes.
We can't talk about patriarchy and not talk about religion. We can't talk about the suppression of the feminine and not talk about religion. They go hand in hand.
Okay, let's talk about it. Let's talk about religion and religion's role in the demise. No, okay, go ahead.
Before the Hebrew God was introduced, goddess worship was the standard. It was goddesses of all cultures. I researched this for many years. And goddess sexuality were revered and worshipped throughout creation. You know, from Samoa to Mexico to all around the world, her yoni was revered and worshipped. Her sexuality. There was no such thing as sluts and all these types of different names that came later on.
So, what is yoni for those in the back?
Okay. Yeah, yoni is a Sanskrit word that means womb or a sacred space. So those are the same. And then for the Sanskrit word for the lingam is a Sanskrit word for the penis, which means wand of light. Okay. So prior to this whole thing, you know, the whole Hebrew God coming in with Christianity, goddesses were worshipped. So what happened was they had to do 5 things in order to shift the worship entity, which is woman, okay, to become a worshiping entity. Because these are
Mm-hmm.
two type of consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
right? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
well, stay with me here. As a woman, as a goddess, you were worshipped.
Right.
Now you go into church and you worship other people.
Right.
Okay, so the 5 things that had to happen in order for them to introduce a new paradigm, basically, was you had to discredit, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
discredit the woman,
Yes.
right? And we see this also within racism for
Yes.
Black people,
Right.
discrediting Black people. They're not even, they 3/5 of a person,
Yes.
right? So when you go in there, you're thinking like, oh, okay, the woman will discredit Tertullian philosophy. Well, he was like the father of Latin Christianity, called women yoni, a sewer,
Oh,
okay? Talked
same
about
place where
her,
your mama's womb is a sewer. Okay.
a
Okay.
sewer, yes,
Wow.
and had a very harsh opinion about the woman and her sexuality. This had to happen
Mm-hmm.
because you had to discredit her now, and that's
Mm-hmm.
why a lot of scriptures in the Bible and other religions, um, or even Eve, if you will, right? The
Mm-hmm.
whole
Mm-hmm.
temptress, she can't be trusted,
Right.
kind of, characters in the Bible, if you will. Um, so that they had to discredit her, right? Um, what they also had to do before they can destroy you, they have to demonize you.
Right.
Right? They have to demonize you, which we see that in all
Society
around,
all around. Yeah. And it's
all
really
around.
interesting when before we got on, I was just telling you about how I was watching a show on CNN, and it was they were at the pipeline, I guess in North Dakota. And this was in 2017 that they were doing this, but I just watched it last night. And so they were talking about how the natives, indigenous folks who were there in North Dakota, Nebraska, and South Dakota, and some of the other places, how in the beginning, when they were here, before there was any disruption, they were a matriarchal society and they
Mhm.
handled themselves as such. And then when the Europeans came and then patriarchy came, they went right with it too. So they stopped doing so. Of course, and I knew this, but it just was reinforced in my brain. The same thing that happened in Australia was that the Europeans came and brought these peoples to what they called a boarding school, and they cut off
Mm,
their hair and they would not let them speak their languages. They sexually assaulted them. They
mhm,
made them Christians. You know what I'm saying?
mhm.
Taking
Yep.
away their own, you know, their own traditions and things that they've done for millennia before. And now, so that's demonizing it. So if you speak your own language, you get a whipping. If you want to eat your
Mm,
own food, or if you want to keep your hair long because that's where your power is, you get whipped or sexually assaulted. So they had to demonize it in order for them then to be able to do the things that they've done now.
yes.
Introduce alcohol and introduce drugs and introduce crime into those reservations, and then don't give them the resources to be able to support themselves as they try to climb out of now this hole. So it's the same thing. Indigenous natives of wherever, the
Yes.
patriarchy, the Europeans came in with their religion,
Yeah.
demonizing them, women and peoples of color. And now it's okay when, well, they feel like it's okay and they don't understand why it's not okay to shoot people in the street, why it's not okay to do those things. They don't understand
Yes.
that because we've been demonized. We're not human in their eyes.
Absolutely. So they dismiss you, they discredit you,
Mm-hmm.
they demonize you, and then they destroy you.
Right.
That is the process that that's happened with women. It's happened to indigenous people all over the world, um, and that's what happened to the goddess. Okay, because what I talk about the wounded feminine comes from, well, we talk about collectively here. The wound is tied to your sense of self, which comes from, many of us come from religion. in religion, Christianity specifically, you're half of a whole. You're a helpmate. You're not complete entity. And
Mm.
this is why the woman, from her wounded state, and which is you have to correct this if you really want to be fully expressed as divine feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't see yourself as a whole being, right? And you are a total whole being unto yourself. You have these attachments that begin to happen
Mm-hmm.
because you don't see yourself as connected to divinity. Your sense of identity comes from these attachments. So the husband,
Mm-hmm.
the children, the identity you become tied to these attachments. And these attachments will bring you a lot of suffering from a wounded state when you don't have not transcended to acknowledge your true identity, that you're a whole being. You know, that was one reason why I married, because I felt incomplete. I felt like I was just this single mother who
Mm-hmm.
needed to get a man to make sure he had a man, because I was nothing, and da, 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 you know how that goes, because of
Right.
the shame and guilt that you have, right? Now, if someone had pulled me to the side and said, "Oh, sister, you're a whole unto yourself. You
Right.
have all the answers. You have all the solutions. You have the strategies all within you," I would have had a different perspective about my choices. But from that perception, going back to perception, I didn't have it at the time.
Right. Amazing. And same for me. I was walking down the aisle at 31, about to throw up, but I just felt like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. All my friends are 30.
Oh.
And, so this is what I need to do. And then I'll be, you know, whole. You know what I'm saying? So let's talk about how we can reconnect with we have 30 minutes left. So reconnecting with our power.
Hmm. Yes. So first, you have to go into understanding, like, where you are in relationship to your own power as a woman.
Okay.
So um, we have to really investigate and understand, specifically, individually and collectively, like, where are we not showing up fully expressed? Where are the belief patterns that we have about being a woman?
Okay.
Okay. We have to examine that from every area of your life with relationships. And usually we get a lot of our insights from relationships
Mm-hmm.
because, that's how we grow. The woman is the attractor, the masculine is the reflector. So
Okay.
all
The
you have to
woman is the attractor, the
do,
masculine is the reflector. Okay. Okay.
yes, yes. So all you have to do is look at your relationships. Look at your relationships to see what's going on up in here, up in your mind, okay, in
Okay.
your consciousness, okay.
Okay.
And that's relationships with everything: your body, right? Your friends, your family, your lovers. Begin to look at these relationships as information for you to see where you are. Let me just give you a deeper understanding of for the listeners, of the feminine, the wounded feminine. The wounded feminine has a fractured identity, which is, I call it, I am incomplete consciousness. She does not see herself as whole.
Okay.
And when she identifies with her form, she has not yet to acknowledge her multi-dimensional beingness. She identifies herself with only form and these dense experiences. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
When the feminine deeply identifies with these identities, right, she holds judgments about herself, about
Right.
life, and about
Mm-hmm.
herself.
Mm-hmm.
And underneath these judgments is a whole heap full of shame. Okay, shame, regret, guilt. And so because of the shame, she feels she needs to protect herself. Right? She
Mm.
judged to protect herself, to keep herself, because she does not really want to find out. The fear is that I'm not really worth anything.
Right. I'm not good enough.
Right?
I'm not
I'm
worth
not good enough. I'm not worth it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why she defends to protect herself. When you feel you need to be protected, you are in the wound.
The
Right?
wound. Okay.
The
Mm-hmm.
wound, not the womb, but
Mm-hmm.
we'll call it the wounded feminine, right?
Wow.
So the shame is a part of the wound. Like if you have secrets are a part of there will be no need for secrets if there was no shame.
Right. Hmm.
So and many of us are holding these secrets around with us, afraid to really show up and be ourselves. And that is what, because the feminine decides how we receive. If we're going to receive through struggle or we're going to receive through ease,
Okay.
right? The
Hmm.
feminine decides that. So when we have shame and secrets, if we've yet to really stand in our own, to be fully seen as who we are, we cannot be loved for who we are.
Right.
Suppressed women can't be loved
Wow.
because they have yet to be themselves. And suppressed women, guess what? Raise angry sons. Okay. Okay.
Women cannot be loved.
Yeah.
They're not receiving it. They're not open to receiving it. Not that they cannot. They're not open to receiving it. Is that it?
Yes, because they have yet to acknowledge themselves as who they are, right? Because you're suppressing the very thing. In order for you to begin to move and correct yourself into the more empowered parts of yourself, the complete identity is to start to today, right? Share what you're ashamed about to someone that you love, to a friend, to anyone.
Hmm.
Start to talk about the secrets that's been holding that energy in you, that dense energy in you, right? The hiding, the manipulating, all the things that we do, to protect the wounds that we've been carrying since childhood, right?
Wow.
And that's what shifts the energy from receiving, because the wounded feminine receives. We all are receiving all the time. It's like, what are you receiving, right? So if you're receiving a man who's like calling you names, okay, that is something that you're receiving. You got to look at that. If you're looking at someone who's trying to control you, if you're looking at, you're attracting quote unquote narcissists or narcissistic traits. If you are attracting men who are emotionally unavailable, you still are receiving, open to receiving something, right? So we have
Hmm.
to look at that, and then correct ourselves into the empowered feminine. Because when you're attracting emotionally unavailable men or men who disrespect you, that's proof that the wounded feminine is in action. Okay.
Wow. Okay. That's amazing. So and you can hear me. You all can hear me because it says that my connection is lost. But if I can still hear you, then I'm going to keep on going. Okay. Um. So the resurrection. So now let's talk about this really quickly. So we have struggles. We're struggling. Many women struggle with their relationships with money and their relationships with men. And depending on your sexuality, what you're attracted to, there's your struggle in relationships. What does that look like, and how can we how does our woundedness affect this money and relationships? Because people don't put those things together.
It's just energy. So, right. So I always say that lovers are first created in your mind,
Okay.
not in the matrix, right?
All right.
And your money, the quote unquote money, is created in your mind also because it comes from ideas, right? Creative ideas. So it's just energy. Right? So whether it shows up in a form of a relationship or a form of a business idea, and this is Divine Mother as well. This is when the Divine Mother comes in, because Divine Mother, she seeds, she plants, and then she nurtures and births her creation. So,
Okay.
um, lost my train of thought, but
Okay. You scared. Okay.
so understanding that money and energy, money is energy, relationship is energy, and they all come from
Mhm.
here, right? So
Yeah.
whenever you have someone in your space that's not showing up and loving you the way you desire for them to, you have to start looking at your subconscious needs and your subconscious beliefs about
Mhm.
that, about what you really feel you deserve. One thing my friend told me years ago, she said, Halima, you can only have what you feel you deserve. Right? So you don't want to react to what's going on. Okay, you don't have any money. Okay, just that's a fact. I have $5 in my account. Just say that. Okay. um, However, that's the past. The future is in your thought, what you're able to focus on and create in your mind. You gotta take your mind away, or your brain away from your present situation,
Mm-hmm.
right? And begin to focus on what you want and what you desire, right? And the kind of lover that you actually really want. Right? Because if they're in your space, they're there for a reason.
Right.
Right? Yeah, they're there for a reason to show you something about yourself, to show you aspects of you. They are reflecting back to you. And so is the money. That doesn't make you a bad person or a good person. It's just science. It's just what it is. It's energetic science, if you will. So if you are in a situation where you have a relationship or you're attracting certain types of people, I would take a break for a moment and begin to do some introspective work about about the beliefs about you, about what you feel you deserve or how you want to be loved. And again, a lot of shame is underneath all of that as well. Because the only reason why you don't have what you want is because of the wound. It's because
Right.
of the program. Because we accepted our parents' programming. We inherited, I should say, our parents' program. And usually that struggle mentality, relationship struggles, money struggles come from your parental programming. Because if you were to program yourself, what would you do? Wouldn't you like program yourself for wealth,
Yeah.
right? Multi orgasms and a lot of great men in your life or great women, whatever that is. So you have to reprogram your subconscious needs.
That's amazing. And, that really does take time. Like, I do study metaphysics, and a lot of it is, just the things that are in your mind, um, and the feeling of them. And when you're thinking, like, I've learned over the years, why do I keep thinking about the same old crap that I don't want? Like,
Yeah.
why am I doing that? What is it? So let me shift that and think about what it is that I do want. Instead of worrying that I'm not going to get this or that, think about what it feels like to have it and to enjoy it and to be grateful for it and be in gratitude already before it comes. Now, I have to tell you, that is a whole shift from how I, just my conditioning. So
Yes.
the muscle that, I've had to learn. And so now I'm trying to teach my daughter who's 17. I want her to get these lessons because I'm 49. I'm trying to have her get these lessons before she gets 49 so that she can cut down on some of this struggle that I have had because, you know, when you know better, you do better. And so I think that it's very important for us to start to, like you said, self reflect, really see if things are going the way that you want, what you have created for yourself, what you have attracted for yourself, but also to tell the truth. So I'm finishing my book, and I told a lot of truths there, things that I hadn't told anybody. Only my mother and my sister knew some of these things. And but I feel free. And who gonna check me, boo? Ain't nobody gonna check me at this point. You know what I'm saying? So,
Right.
but it feels freeing, and it feels good to have um, released a lot of that stuff that I was holding on strictly because of shame and strictly because of the religious conditioning that I created for myself because my mother did not put this on me. My mother doesn't go to church. My grandmother is who went to church.
Mm,
And so
mm,
I'm saying for myself, and I'm not saying this is for everybody, for me specifically, that religious system was what suppressed me specifically. If it works for you, have at it, enjoy it. I'm saying for me, once I started to do this self reflection, I realized that it wasn't serving me any longer. And then
right.
I realized the damage that it caused me specifically. But like I'm saying, it's not a judgment. It's a, if you love it, I love it for you. For me, it didn't work, but I feel more free than I ever have.
Mm. Yeah, I had a little head start. My dad was an atheist.
Oh,
And
wow.
so, Yeah, my
Okay.
dad was the one who taught me how to think critically and
Mm-hmm.
taught me how to play chess and taught me strategy just by observing. I would observe his conversations. I would just study my father. He was a very unique person. And he would ask me questions that just didn't make sense about the Bible. There was some inconsistencies, but you have faith. That's what they tell you when you ask a question they can't answer. You say, "Well, you gotta have faith." But my
Right.
dad planted those seeds in my mind to question and think critically.
Right.
Not saying that religious people don't think critically,
Right. Right.
but just saying that I to think not only critically but think dimensionally as well.
Right. And I'm teaching my daughter that too as I'm learning. As I'm learning, and we have 15 minutes left. As I'm learning to ask the harder questions, I definitely I'm asking the harder questions and I'm teaching her to do the same thing. And I'm also teaching her how to go into when she's asking a question, how does it feel in her body? How does the result, how does the answer that came to you, how does it feel in your body? Okay, here's what I may have said, or here's what your little friend said, but how does it feel to you? So I am, as I've studied Tantra just level one, I now I'm really becoming in tune with my body and what is it feeling and what is it trying to tell me instead of also suppressing that. So, talking about Tantra, let's talk about heart centered sexuality and how you use that as a healing modality.
Hmm. Well, sexual energy is just energy. That is creative life force energy. Is how we all got here. Okay,
Right.
so returning reverence to this sacred energy that's already inside of you is very important. Just for heart coherence, just for you to feel deep in your body and to connect with your true desire, because your heart is intelligent. Many times we connect with each other through our programs, through just um, biological needs, if you will. And rarely do we really have a conversation about heart being connected via the heart, right? That's not real sexy. It's getting sexier these days, but it's not glamorized, if you will,
Right.
and discussed. So for me, during my practices, I was sharing with you earlier how I started on this tantric experience with the jade egg. I was just
Hmm.
shocked as to how much energy I had in my own body that I wasn't even sensitive to. I
Right.
had these currents of energy flowing through my body. It was very luscious and very warm and very potent. And as I began to deepen my practices, again, I would have, I share this on my with my clients that I would have orgasms just walking.
What?
Yes, I would have these orgasms, having to hold on to something like, um, and I hear they do this in Thailand a lot as well. Um, And I'm like, wow, I've been all my life, I've been walking around with this beautiful energy already inside of me.
Right.
And I learned to sit with that energy. And one thing what we do in our society is like, you feel you have a sexual attraction, you have a sexual desire, you feel you have to act on it.
Right.
And when I teach my clients, it's just to use that energy to sit in it, to not always have to feel you have to act on a sexual impulse, that
True.
you can actually internalize that energy, sit in that energy, and allow it to connect with you to your ideas, creative ideas,
Right.
genius,
Right.
your sense of being. And for the woman, okay, I got to keep it real here. Our sexual anatomy is very different from male sexual anatomy. Okay.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I really think we need to study each other's sexual anatomy. I'm just going to give a very brief, I know we have short on time, but I was going to say that.
Yeah, like 12 minutes.
Okay, I'm going to do this in 2 minutes.
Okay.
um, the women's pelvic anatomy is very complex, very complicated. And male's pelvis is different, right? We have a very complicated superhighway of nerves that stems from the base of our spine all the way up to our brain.
Okay.
So sexual pleasure is we're hardwired for pleasure. right? And those nerves that we have they can, for every woman is different. Some nerves are more close to the clitoris, some are deeper inside the yoni. It's just, we all are very customized. But the fact is, and the scientific proof is that we have a neural network in our pelvis. So what's happening to our pelvis is happening to our brain. They are one entity, right? And military people know this. That's why they go and they weaponize rape, because they
Yeah,
know when they rape and traumatize a woman's womb, that's going to affect her brain, her sense of perception. Not only that, but her children's children, unless it's interrupted. We know this.
intergenerational trauma.
Yes, right. So a male's pelvis does not have that those super high wave nerves. It's just not, and you see that through how porno and how they sexualize is very different. We need more connection. Most of us do. There are some who don't. Based on our ANS system, which is our autonomic nervous system, is what brings forth arousal. My
Right.
point here is this: orgasm is just not a physical thing for a woman. It is what connects her to her highest sense of esteem as a woman, her genius, her creative ideas, her sense of well-being, her sense of connectedness to her own body. It's just not, like busting something. No, this is really what connects you deeper. It's a medium of consciousness.
Right.
That's all I can say. You elevate your consciousness through your deep, heart-centered, body-connected sexuality.
That's amazing. Wow.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, I'm getting all types of we're getting all types of responses here from the guests who are joining us. And so, yeah, suppression, I'm over the last few years, and during my awakening and my evolution, the sex piece has been really interesting to me because in the spiritual system that I was raised in, it was always bad. And
Right.
so, as I've learned through just life and then through my Tantra training, and I'm still going to delve deeper into that because I just hit the very, very surface. It's like, it's where you get your creativity from. When
Yes.
you're not birthing a baby, then you're birthing an idea. And you can use that energy and recirculate it and, just be your most powerful, dope self. And that was never taught to anybody that I know. Never.
Right.
And so there were quite a few young ladies who were pregnant when we were young. They were shamed that the guy just got off scot free. It's like it just happened, immaculate conception by herself. um and then it just goes from there. When you see, like you were talking about slut, and there's it's just the whole culture. It's just a whole different culture that we're in that has suppressed us as women and suppressed our sexuality, which would allow us to, you know, just go to the next level. So I think that, it's important that in our own way, and I would say get some support, because if you've been taught these things for so long, like I was, I had to get support in helping me to open up those spaces and realize that it wasn't something bad, you know?
Absolutely.
So the importance of legacy. So, I've been watching Halima's videos, and check her out at Spirit Halima. She has classes, and she has a good sense of humor, and she breaks it down so easy to digest, because a lot of this stuff is a little esoteric, especially if you haven't heard it. And so it makes it easy for even me to understand, who's been on this journey for a minute, but I'm just going, it's just another level. So reach out to her. But I've heard her speaking about legacy recently, and I'm very interested in legacy. You know, the term being a good ancestor has been floated around here recently. And I do want to be that. I do want to be a good ancestor, and, but it's baby steps. I'm still trying to make sure that keep my baby off the couch. You know what I'm saying? From being so stressed out, for me being so stressed out
Right.
during pregnancy and being a single mom, a young single mom. So, how do you think that we should go about creating a good legacy for our children's children and become a good ancestor?
Hmm. Do the work. Do the inner work. The self work for yourself. My son coined this a few years ago. He's like, "I'm your upgrade." I'm like, oh, and so I've been using. I stole his term. I've been using it,
Okay.
and he is right. The more I am the source, however, so the more I evolve and grow and expand, again, expanding what this thing as woman is all about, you know, mother is all about. The more I expand and elevate, the more he expands and elevate. What you do for yourself, your upgrades, are going to have that expansion as well. So my goal is to, being that intuitive glitch finder, is to see the glitches, share them with my son, share them. We can talk about strategies as to how to best navigate. But the most important thing is to correct the wound. When you know that you're in the wound, you're in fear, you need protection, you're afraid, face it. Every time you face it, you get it's like Pac-Man. You get a little bit more
Mhm.
power pellets. You get a little bit more power and power, and that energy is felt through all of your family line. So that is like the highest gift that you can have, is to begin to accept yourself, change your self perception into something that's fragile to something that's very divine and capable and fierce. Um, Doing that alone is enough. And if you do more than that, then so be it. But that's my recommendation.
That's amazing. So we have 4 minutes. Um, and so give us like one or two shifts that you have to think of during the day that helps you get back on track to know that, to sort of stand in your divine feminine, in your divine power. Do you have any little things that you do?
Yeah, well, I have first I do a workout, right? So I move my body. Movement is key. And
Hmm.
I do, my clients say this, I demand more from my body. You gotta demand more of yourself so you can see what you're actually made of, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all levels. So I'm looking at myself today, how can I be more uncomfortable? What's the uncomfortable action I need to take right now that I'm avoiding, and we all are avoiding something uncomfortable, that I can move myself emotionally? What's the least comfortable thing I can do? So that's one thing, embracing being uncomfortable, and then demanding more from my body, all of my bodies. So me, I demand more of my body, which then demands more of me emotionally and mentally. So that's what I do. Like I get into that zone where I'm just like, okay, I'm going to do this.
At
I'm
the
going to do
gym,
this
you're
uncomfortable.
talking at the gym specifically, or
I'm
working out?
sorry.
Are you talking, on the workout tip? That's what you're talking about? Okay.
Physically, yes. Whether
Mhm.
whatever that boundary you may have for yourself, go past it. So I'm demanding more of my body, because your body has information as well. The body will go, when you move the body beyond its comfort zone. Let's say you run a marathon and you didn't think you could, and you finally do it. That gives you a new sense of perception of yourself, which
Yeah.
is emotionally, mentally, spiritually as well.
Mhm.
Um, so for me, is doing those things, challenging myself emotionally, mentally, physically, and really befriending discomfort, being uncomfortable with, you know, reaching out to someone, asking for forgiveness, or not reacting, or just allowing the judgments to come up and let them just go back down without reacting, reminding myself that I am complete, I am whole.
Well, I love that. I love that you ended that way because we have 1 minute left. So you ended on just a reminder that we are complete and we are whole. And it's just up to us to stand in that and to understand that we can be that unapologetically and moving forward, we can make a choice to always stand in that. So I do appreciate that. I do appreciate you coming on. I appreciate everybody for coming on. We were 30 minutes behind due to these technical difficulties. But I appreciate it. Everybody look at Spirit Halima on her Facebook. She's on at Spirit Halima on all of the platforms, Instagram, and Facebook, and I think even Twitter. But check
Yes.
her out, join her Facebook lives. She has some amazing information to help us move to the next level and to tap into our divine feminine and to resurrect her within ourselves. So at this point, we thank you so much, and we will see you next time in the sanctuary. Peace.